Isn't it interesting, how life just works sometimes? One week you're working at a job that you love, and the next week you're not. I am no longer working at the job known as the job that I loved, past tense. Yeah, I mean, just to get into it, a couple days ago on Sunday, I was at work at my other job, and I got a text basically saying that, due to availability issues and, frequent call offs, that I would no longer be working there. And while I was at work, I read this message and like my heart just sank. And I go into the bathroom and I read it again, and I actually text back that I can work. In September, my schedule is totally clear so that I can work there whenever you need me. And I get a text back saying like, "Oh, I didn't know this," and essentially like they already found someone else to replace me. I was just like absolutely devastated, to be honest. Like it just came at like such a complete shock, because not only was there no communication about these issues prior, like I was just totally clueless about like what was going on. And yeah, I mean, on that part there was really no communication whatsoever, so I had no clue. And two, I think it was just like, it just seemed like such a slap in the face, because, literally my last YouTube video was about me working at that place, and, how I was glad to be a part of such a great community and to be working at that place. And, like when I say like I love that job, like I really truly loved working there. So I guess to continue on, that Sunday, later that day, whenever I was leaving work, I called my girlfriend and I told her, and she was just as shocked, if not more shocked than I was. And she was like, how, like, why, how could this happen? You loved working there so much. Why did it happen? And I was just as confused as she was. And and I started to get like, I was just like a little bit emotional, because I was just like upset, because like working there, it was like, not only was it a change of pace from my other job that I currently have, but I mean, sneakers was something that was a huge like personal interest of mine. And several videos back, you can also watch another video of me saying how like how just excited I was to be a part of something like that. And to be totally transparent with y'all, though, this did take up a lot of my life, like I guess present life. At this other job, I work Sunday through Wednesday, and then at this other job, I worked Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I essentially had no time to myself, or like no time for family, no time for hanging out with my girlfriend. And you know most importantly, I didn't spend, like, it was causing me to not spend time with God, to be completely honest, because I wasn't reading my Bible as much. As some of y'all know, I volunteer at church. I hadn't done that basically ever since I started. And in that phone call with my girlfriend on Sunday, I was telling her that like I like overall I just think that this was like some sort of sign. And she actually had a story, like she actually said on that earlier that day, she had gone to church, and she was looking around and she was seeing some other people that were volunteering, and that made her think of me, because she was also thinking that like I hadn't volunteered at church in a while. And overall, I think that these last couple of days is really like just like some sort of like wake up call. I've really been so busy. Like when I say that I've been busy, I've been so busy. And I did always complain, that I never had really any days to myself. I was working just about every single day. And with this other job that I loved, I was willing to do whatever to just be there. You know, whether it was like if I was working at my other job, I would try and get a shift swap so that I could work at this job, and, you know, willing to do whatever I could in order to just be there, and, you know, to also, you know, be transparent again. Like, I feel like I almost idolized this job. And I think that was something that, you know, I never realized. I never realized until after the fact that, until after like getting let go. And I think, you know, to like some people, obviously watching, you know, it may not be that big of a deal, but like when I tell you that this was such a strong personal desire of mine to be working over there, it like it truly was. But I think in the end, I was on the brink of turning this job into an idol. And last night, me and my girlfriend were doing a little bit of Bible study, and we went over a verse. I actually have it on my wall here. It's Proverbs 19:21, and it says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails." And I was just saying, like, you know, this other job was like really was a personal desire, and I don't think that it was something that was, you know, like intended for my path. I think there was something that, like, obviously there was something that God saw that I didn't. And, you know, like whenever it did, like whenever I got the text, like that whole entire day, like after work I was upset, and then like I went I went through like, honestly, like the 5 stages of grief. Like, I tried to not let it bother me, but it honestly, like, it did. And for like the couple days after the fact, and it was just something that, you know, I never really saw coming. But I think, you know, real like deep down inside, this was something that needed to happen. And I think the reason for that is because, you know, one, I didn't really have time for really anything. And, you know, two, it I was not really that productive outside of work. Whenever I'd have free time, I'd always be in my room, you know, playing games or on my phone. Like, I didn't have the time to, you know, work out or anything like that. And I just think that the addition of this job that I loved was, you know, pretty detrimental, to be honest with y'all. And, you know, this was really the first time that I, like, really experienced anything like this. You know, something that I love being, you know, not taken away, but I guess that's what it feels like. And, you know, sometimes personal desires will never be enough. Unfortunately, that's something that I had to learn the hard way. And, you know, whether this was a sign or whether it was coincidence, which I don't think it is, you know, later down the road, something, I think something, there would have been a negative outcome of this. And something that I also want to mention was like at the beginning of 2025, my motto was God's will. And my prayer for 2025 was that whatever I do, let it be in God's will. And uh, this was my prayer because last year I had graduated from college back in December, and, you know, I'm gonna be needing to look for, you know, a big boy job and stuff like that. And I kind of know what I want to do, but it's not certain. And, you know, that's when I like decided like that my prayer would be whatever God has for me, like I will do it. And, you know, after this, you know, it still stands. You know, whatever God has for me, you know, I will gladly do it. And, you know, I just think that this other job was just something that was not in line with that. But one thing, you know, I guess like there was a lot of realization of what this has caused for me. And, you know, I'm glad that I realized it now rather than, you know, later down the road when, you know, something really negative happens. And because, you know, like I said, you know, it definitely really does suck. It truly does. Because, you know, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, you can watch in the last video, it was about like 30 minutes long, and you can see like I really truly enjoyed being there. But, you know, sometimes, you know, things just, you know, don't work out, and things just will, you know, will sometimes never work out, you know, in your favor. And that's something that, you know, I need to realize. And you know, I need to just let it go instead of just like trying to have God take it from me, but like me having like some like resistance. So, you know, that's just another thing that I need to learn. And, you know, there are some good things to come out of this. You know, I will have more time to myself, so I can spend more time with family. I can spend more time with my girlfriend. Obviously, I can, you know, be more focused on my spirituality. You know, reading my Bible more, volunteering as well, and you know, overall, it's just a huge learning curve for me. Learning to not act on my personal desires for myself. Like I mentioned, there will be, you know, there's some things that now I will have the chance to do. And like this morning I woke up and went on a run. And it felt, you know, it felt good. And that's something that I haven't been able to do with my really busy schedule this past couple of months. And I would like to mention, you know, like no hate to, you know, the previous employer. I will still be shopping there and stuff like that, but there wasn't any alignment. And that's, you know, something that I will have to get used to, even though it will be really hard. But over the past week or two, you know, this will just be something that I'll have to let go of. But this will allow me to allocate my times to better things that will help me grow, and I can also use this time to learn. I think, you know, this is probably like a shock to, you know, some people, because I mentioned it at work. Like a lot of people at my other job, they knew about this, and you can tell like whenever I talk to them about it, like it's pretty clear that they also could tell how much I really enjoyed working there. And it still feels pretty weird because I would have gone to work there yesterday, and it still felt like I was going to, but sometimes things just don't align with what you want, and that's just something I'll have to learn. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today. You know, I always enjoy making these videos and talking to y'all, but more videos to come, of course. Please like and subscribe. But I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.